Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffet as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas, sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffet.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffet. I am in Burrawang in New South Wales in Australia, as you all know, and it is coming up to 10 a.m. on Wednesday morning. My guest in Charlotte, North Carolina is Anne Duffy, and it must be coming up to 8 o'clock at night, your time, Tuesday night.
Yes, it's almost time for my bedtime.
Get out.
I'm at 9:20. We might have to. You said 50 minutes, so this will wrap up at 9:20.
We'll wrap it up nicely. Yes. Anyway, and it's as we've already chatted for 50 minutes before turning on the broadcast, and it's really nice to see you. I haven't seen you for ages, but we've known each other. We worked out since about 2015, 2016, where we met at in Washington. And we've met at dental speaker meetings, but it's great to chat with you because I think through your history in dentistry and the dental media, you're an under the radar person because you're the founder and editor of Dental Entrepreneur magazine, and now more recently, Dental Entrepreneur Women and Do Life magazine are also things that you've been doing to help women in dentistry. So I wanted to find out what's going on for women in dentistry in the United States and what their challenges are and what their successes are. So let's talk about that.
Well, let's do. I'm going to comment on the fact why I fly under the radar, because when I have had Dental Entrepreneur, it used to be Business Beyond the Classroom, and it flies under the radar because we had just went to the dental school. So we printed and drop shipped all the dental schools. So it was kind of like our little thing to give the dental students a little business 101. They don't get any business academics in dental school. They're too busy with the clinical side. And so then, 8 years ago, I started Dental Entrepreneur Woman because I saw the need to highlight the amazing women in dentistry. And my friend was bullied in her review, and I was upset about it. And I said, I'm just going to start another magazine, and I'll call it Dental Entrepreneur Woman. And that's how that started. And I got a chance to really understand women in dentistry in all career paths, actually, David, not just dentists, but just all career paths, women in dentistry.
Well, the fact is, down here in Australia, they're graduating more women dentists than male dentists. It's now becoming a female-dominated profession.
Same in the States. Yeah.
Yeah, when I graduated, it was 80%, 90% men, and so that's changing. And I think the industry as a whole, not just the profession, but the industry needs to realize that there are women having to make business decisions because ultimately, Anne, unless you're an employee of an organization or a practice, you're a business owner. If you've got your own practice, you're actually a business owner. So I like that fact that and I think it's tough trying to teach business to undergraduates because they don't even realize that they're actually going into business before they graduate. And then they go, well, they haven't taught me about marketing. They haven't taught me about accounting. They haven't taught me about HR. They haven't taught me about all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of things that you need to run a good business. Yes.
Yeah.
And they don't have time. That's what the schools, they keep saying that. And I started Dental Entrepreneur, 23 years ago, and they were telling me that then, and they're telling me that today. And the business side is so important. And I think that being thrown in that um, without any help and support is really tough. I'm getting a lot of background or double talk here. Can you hear?
I'm not hearing it on my side. So
Okay.
you're the one. Are you hearing yourself back? Is that what you're hearing?
Well, after I say something, I hear it after I said it. So just a little bit. I mean, every once in a while it comes and goes. It wasn't happening. We were just chatting before, but now I heard it. So see, I heard it just there. Okay. I don't know.
I'm not getting on mine.
You're
So
not hearing it? Okay.
no, you just keep talking.
Okay.
It's not coming through on the broadcast.
Okay, good.
But you're right. And the model down here, and I think it's the model in the United States, is that they leave that for the graduate dentist to then find a place of employment to be mentored in the business side. And they've actually withdrawn the education in the business side completely in university. And I think who sold the profession that model? Because as a dentist, you've done your time, you've built a successful business, and then all of a sudden you've got to become a mentor at the same time that you're trying to run your own business. And I learned by osmosis, and it wasn't by mentorship. I just tried to find out as much as I could along the way. But then when I became my own practice owner, I was still very naive. And so it's that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You've got to make less mistakes than your wins. But sometimes the people take those mistakes and those errors personally, and they build roadblocks for themselves, which are not realistic that they can get through, but they just say, oh, it affects them. How is that with women? Because I guess, women, there is a difference in the way women communicate with each other and the way they communicate with men and the way men communicate with each other, and the way they communicate with women. Those are 4 different ways of communicating. How are you helping female dentists to become better entrepreneurs? Because ultimately an entrepreneur is somebody who is successful in business, isn't it?
Well, first of all, I think that women are used to spinning a lot of plates. And as an entrepreneur, you have to spin a lot of plates. So I think it comes naturally to them as far as getting things done and knowing that they've got a lot of hats to wear, because that's just, I think men are a little bit more laser focused if I had to compare them. But I also think that women love relationshiping. And I think when you can be in a community and learn from each other, I think they're a little bit more ready and willing to learn from outside of their little bubble. And so I think that really helps women in general as far as leading their teams and leading their practices. I think in the States, you were saying, 60% of the graduating dentists are women in the States now. So the thing is that the hierarchy, the CEOs, the C-suites are really filled by men. And so our job is to have women feel that there is an opportunity for them to make decisions that are going to affect their profession and their equipment and their processes and things like that. So I think that's where we're coming from behind, is that there really hasn't been a great amount of women in leadership roles. And still to this day, you'll see us. There was something on LinkedIn just recently that there was a conference. There were, I think, 30 men and 2 women on the schedule, on the agenda. And that was last week. So, we are trying to show our muscle and our power, but it's not that easy because we still have a lot of the heavy lifting to do with the nurturing of the kids and the running of a household. There's a lot of women that we were talking earlier, that the men are taking over some of those duties and being the house husband, but it's still, I still feel like when I talk to women in dentistry, they're still leading the team, if you will, not only in the practice, but at home, on the home front. So it's a lot on their shoulders, but I think that they have figured out a way to do that by probably not working 6 days a week. Okay. So there's that too. They've got a little bit more of a balance, a mentality. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the future. I think we're going to see a lot of women paired together in practices where they make it work. And both, like say, if you have a partner that is a female as well, you'll find that there'll be some kind of an idea that each of them need their own space and they need to be able to have the autonomy to build on their own, but also build together as a unit?
It's a tough situation, as you said, because back in the day, the biological clock was also a factor in terms of women wanting to have a family while they're young. Now,
Well, that's still a thing. That's still a thing, Yeah,
but
the
they are having
biological.
families later, and there is medical assistance to have families later as well. So they can do some work in the business. For me, as a male practitioner, it was obvious to me that the more I worked, I got to pay myself the 40% as an associate. That was my money. Whereas if I replaced myself, then I had to give that money to somebody else. So it affected the outcome of what the Moffet family got. Now, for a woman practice owner, still there is profit in not being a practicing dentist in your own practice, but it's much less because you're not getting paid for being the technician. But yet the corporates are making money on that profit because they're not drilling the teeth. So it's sometimes, and I've seen this in dental practices, sometimes people end up with a model in a practice that they didn't really start out with, and it's just how their practice evolved. And sometimes they're down a rabbit burrow too far to get back themselves out of it. It does take a certain type of person, male or female, to say, all right, this is the model I want. This is the profit I want to take out of it. But that either male or female, there are dentists who say, I want to run this as a business, but not as a practicing dentist. But as a woman owner, it's more part-time, I think, in terms of practicing dentists, because they, as you said, they do have other plates to spin. How are you
Yeah.
helping them in that sort of situation to balance the business and not just end up with a practice that is a mother's club?
As it practices a what club? A mother's club?
Mother's club, where a lot of part-time women come
We
in to
talked
drill.
about that a little bit earlier. I don't know. I mean, the female dentists that I know seem to be able to handle it. They are on their terms. So I mean, they may not be. In fact, there's a endodontist that's a dear friend. She lives down the street from me, and she figured out a way to work, 2 days or I don't know, maybe I think she was like 4 days a month. And the way she's working in her schedule, she makes about as much as she used to make working full time. So I mean, women are smart, and they know how to manage their career. They get the right people in the right seats. And I mean, I think that you can have two very, very successful docs in the same practice, obviously, just because you've got an associate. I mean, to me, they can make as much money as they want, and you can do the same thing because you have your separate patients usually, and so that shouldn't be a hindrance. I think it just maybe you got to get in the right spot. And I think what I've seen is that a lot of times the main doctor that brings on the associate isn't really in the position or in the want, if you will, to mentor and to give. I think the young people coming in sometimes want it given to them, and they don't realize how hard the owner doctor worked to get where they are. So that's one thing that I see, that they need to like start building their own book, their own patient flow, get involved in the community, all the things that you coach on. Honestly, David, it's just it's not that difficult. I think it is different now than it was when you started and when I started in dentistry. I mean, there's so many different monthly payments that they're on the with all the cybersecurity, the insurance. I mean, you just name all the things, HR, all the things that the tech, the monthly payments for everything that you go. If they looked at their list, is probably a list of 25 things that are taken out of the pot every month just to keep the business running, versus when a lot of people started back in the day, you put your sign out and you had a good location, you had a real good chance of having a great practice. So that's a lot different now. But I think that also, as far as women go, I think they are more willing to delegate some of the tasks that need to be done and don't feel like they have to do it all themselves. So I think that's very helpful and helps them from being burnt out. And what we do in our organization is, we just show them that they're not alone, that there is, that you're not crazy here, that we're here to help. And we think that the answer is in the ladies' room. And it is. If you've got a problem and you bring 5 women together around a table and you present the problem, you're going to figure out an answer. And so I think that's one of the things that women are not afraid to share. and be vulnerable. And that really helps in their practice and building their, I think that's one of the things that we do with the community that we build, is help women be confident and empowered to know that it's possible to have a great practice and a great life. I think you can do both.
And you raised a really good point there that's not exclusive to women, but is a variance in thinking in terms of putting on an associate, be it a male owner, female owner, male associate, female associate. And there's two schools of thought, and that is that the principal shouldn't be putting on an associate unless they can provide the associate with a full book of patients ahead of themselves, or the principal should be putting on an associate to build up their books themselves, because there is a supply of patients, but the associates aren't getting those patients to come back, or aren't seeing the work, aren't presenting the work, aren't doing the work. What do you see as that? Is that still an A or B situation in the United States? Is there less demand? Is it because there's more dentists out there?
I think, I don't know. Corporate's taken over, I think, first of all, at the schools. So there are very few students when they're in their spring year of their final year of dental school that know what they're doing. You could have like 100 students in a room and you'll ask them, who knows where they're going upon graduation? And you'll have 5 hands raised. And so they all tend to now, because corporate dentistry is in the schools big time. And so most of the students think that's the only way they can get their skills up. And there's some truth to that, because in corporate dentistry, they promise, mentorship, they promise education, they promise all sorts of things. And you got to get the right one, because you hear that sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. But again, it's not that easy when you come out with $300,000 to $500,000 in debt to want to take on owning your own practice right out of the chute. They really need, I don't even think they really have the clinical skills to be able to pull that off, to tell you the truth, in a lot of cases. So I think corporate dentistry is a big thing as far as someone's career path. Start there and then put things in place if you want to own your own practice, which I don't know how you feel, David, but it feels to me like most people went into dentistry because they wanted to have their own business and that they saw that was a path to do that. Now that's changed quite a bit, but I still think that there's going to be room for having your own practice, being a private practitioner, or maybe having one associate or one office or 2 offices, and not be the big corporation where, you have to march to the same drum as everybody else. There's a lot of different ways to practice, but I think that's a choice that every graduating dentist can make. And I think it's important to get a coach from the get-go and start to map out the future and not walk that journey alone, because they don't know. They just don't know what they don't know. It's just, I can't even imagine. It's hard to run a business, and it's hard to be a clinical practitioner. I mean, there's a lot of stuff a lot of things that go around both of those things, clinical and business, that's not easy. But if they get the right help and the right systems in place, it can be simplified. And you know that, because that's what you preach with your coaching clients.
It's true. And sometimes you don't know what you're going to get as an associate until you've accepted the job, and then you find that it's not all it's cracked up to be. You might have a successful owner who has no time for mentoring. You might have a successful owner who also protects the patient and cherry picks that the difficult cases and the lucrative cases are done by the successful owner to minimize errors. So there's a whole pile of things. But you mentioned about the corporates, and I think the corporates do wave a carrot that the private practice owner can't waive, and that is to help them with their student debt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's an unfair advantage that the corporations have. And the other thing that the corporations have that I've recently discovered is that they're starting up their own schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you learn the XYZ way of doing dentistry. That may not be the XYZ way of running a private practice, but it might be the XYZ way of being part of a corporation. But that's not just exclusive to dentistry, Anne. In general business, people find that the corporate culture is not for them. They get stifled by a boss who's worried that somebody in their team is going to take their job as the team leader. And people get pushed out of.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I think it's not a bad idea to go corporate. And I don't have anything against corporate dentistry. I mean, I think there's listen, there are great corporate dental practices, and there are great private practitioner practices, and they're not so great of either one as well. So, having said that, I think that's just that's just how it is. But I also think that somewhere around your late 30s, early 40s, you start to realize, I think I want to go out on my own. And I think that's whether you're working outside of dentistry. I think most entrepreneurs are somewhere in their early 40s is when they decide to start their own business. And that's what I've seen with the women in dentistry. I think a lot of times they're a little bit of a late bloomer, and somewhere around the late 30s, early 40s are like, oh, I'm going to start my own business because I want to make the decisions and I want to get paid what I'm worth. And that is the best way to do it, is if you own your own business. And I think that in the long run, it's been proven that you do make more money if you own your own practice over the length of your career. So, when is that going to start? If not now, when? If not you, who? And I think that that's just the way things are. So I don't think that corporations are going to take over dentistry. I think they're a bridge, and they're trying to figure out a way to keep the good dentists that do join their organizations in the organization and not have them leave.
I think that I think you've raised a really good point there, and I know the corporations came later to Australia, and I think they struggled when they started rolling them up, and employing the owners of the practice in the roll up. But that after 5 years, those people then left, and they were left with, well, now we've got these facilities, but who's running them? And
Right.
some of those individual offices are a shadow of what they were before they were bought, and are a shadow of what they were while the principal dentist stayed on for that 5-year contract. Now, is that because the principal dentist decided that was their out, they were selling and work 5 years and then retire, or were they beaten out?
Both. I've heard all the stories. I mean, I hear all the stories. So yeah, I think it can be both. But mostly when you're selling, your eye is on the prize of retirement, right? And so, I mean, this isn't about women. This is across the board, men and women. Is that fortunately, unfortunately, whatever you want to say, if you sell to a corporation, you're going to make more money than if you sell to um, an individual. And it's very hard to find a young individual that can afford your practice. So there's a lot of problems in financial area there of dentistry. And I would say a good, you got to plan early, right up when you get out of school. I mean, you can't just decide when you're in your late 30s that you want to buy a practice. You got to start planning all those things, and not maybe buying the Ferrari, or not buying the house on the ocean, or the second house, or whatever. Or, you just got to take a break there and build up your career. But just speaking on your associate versus the owner, I worked for a dentist that had 5 associates within like 3 years. I mean, and they, the team didn't want to recommend the young associate that had just got out of dental school. I mean, who are you going to recommend? It's your mother. Okay, my mom needs a crown. Who am I going to have do the crown? Somebody that's done like 5 crowns dental school, or somebody that's been doing crowns every day for 20 years, right? So, I mean, that's really very tough. That's what I said, that I wish they need to take a little bit more ownership. I never saw an associate. I have not seen an associate take ownership of their own practice within a practice. And I don't, that's just my experience. I hope that if you're listening to me and you're an associate, that you will be a host and not a guest to the practice, not just show up and expect everything to be given to you. You've got to always, I think the best associate would be someone that would come in and take it on like it is their practice, and that they're building something for their future. It's going to be a long slog before they get their books up and to speed, and the patients are wanting to, go to them and not to the main, the owner doctor. There's just a lot there. There's a lot of work. It's not easy. That's hard, but they've got to do hard things if they're going to be successful.
It's a really interesting topic, because we were talking about, before we came on air, about a client of mine, and when she actually contacted me and said, I've bought another practice. Now, this was because she was operating in a central business district in a city in Australia, and the building, a tall building, was tall. Isn't it funny how we use our hands when we don't need to use? Everybody knows what tall is. But she bought her practice. Her office was in a tall building, and the owners of the building had a policy where they renovated a floor every so often. So her floor was being renovated. So she had to relocate. So the choice was relocate out of that building, relocate within that building. But she actually took the option of buying another practice in that building that was for sale. And she bought that practice, and the principal dentist wanted to stay on. He was older than her, and he was selling because his marriage had broken up, but he wanted to stay on. And so I worked with her because she was like, oh, I'm going to change the decorations, whatever. That practice was doing double the turnover of what hers was. And I said, no, I think really you should just take up a room in that practice and let him, his receptionist was staying on, he was staying on, and just let him keep going. You've bought a racehorse, you don't put a plow on his back, okay?
Yeah.
And in the first year, that practice went up 20% on the turnover of the two practices together. And she said the funniest thing was when she told him that she wasn't going to take his office and that he was actually still going to have his office, she said, I thought he was going to walk out of that practice, go down to the airport and fly down to Sydney and marry you because you gave me that advice. Because she said, and so this is a business decision for all dentists, male or female, but she understood that although she hated the lounge and she hated the decor, I said, you're going to upset all the patients of his. And you've bought a racehorse. You want to, you don't work them hard. You work them to win races and you let them keep going in their environment. And I think that's a really tough mentality. I know of another dentist who went to work for a husband and wife, and he was doing more than the husband and wife together. They resented him, even though they were making money out of him. They resented that he was a productive. Yeah, he was overperforming and making them look bad.
Well, that's a terrible mindset. That they should be so happy that somebody's coming in and doing something like that. And the other thing that hit me was like, don't fix it if it's not broken, right? I mean, it's like that's so smart advice for somebody to not come in. And I think that that's across the board when you come in as an associate or you're buying a practice. I mean, don't change everything. The patients are going to freak out. The team's going to freak out. You need to have some semblance of order and some kind of a nice transition, smooth transition, and not so abrupt. But I think, I know you want to get back to women in dentistry. I think women with dentistry, it's such a great career for them. I feel like there is autonomy and there is a way to be flexible and still be very profitable. And again, how much money do you need to make? I mean, that's up to you. So you can make a good salary and have time for your family and have time for the things that you like to do. It just depends on how driven you are. And then also how you are going to build the team around you. So I think women are very good at building a good team around, not just in the office, but outside of the office. A sense of, finding team members that help them with their home, with their, with their hobbies, things like that, and within the practice. So they're not just doing everything on their own. And I think that's important for women to know that that's something that is their choice and there is help out there. And sometimes they need another female that's in the same boat to give them the advice, to give them a little nudge to look for that.
I think, and I had this advice from a male dentist many years ago, and he said to me, dentistry is a very unique model as a business because, if you own a bakery, your customers expect bread 7 days a week. But in a dental practice, you can run your practice down to 1 or 2 days a week. You will still keep patients who want to keep coming. And so what you were saying there earlier about having employees 2 days a week who had full books, I visit 2 practices for my hygiene, one practice for month 3 and 9 and one practice for month 6 and 12, purely because of COVID and pregnancy that I ended up, my primary practice didn't have a hygienist. So I found a former employee at another practice. Now, she's so busy 2 days a week. If you miss an appointment with her, you get your next one in 6 months' time. And so she runs her own hygiene service 2 days a week in this other office. And so it's great to have that. I'm the ideal patient because like who actually wants to go to the dentist 4 times a year?
Not many people do.
Again, that gives you that opportunity.
That's called efficiency. It's called being efficient. And then this one particular dentist or endodontist I was speaking of, she really put the team together. She's got people doing everything for her. She shows up and does what she's really good at, two days. Let's just say I don't even know. It's 2 days a week. Let's say that. So I think she went down to like 6 days a month and it was doing just as well as she was doing full time. But she's so efficient and has so many great systems in place that she managed that, and it's been amazing. And then also maybe the one other thing about what women I think are doing, they do a lot with side gigs. Then she started a little speaking, and then she's got another, a course that she teaches. And, there's all sorts of things you could do outside the box, thinking outside the box, because I think that's another thing that I think women aren't so laser focused on just the straight line, that they can go and waver off a bit and find some joy and some success on other avenues.
The topic, you got my mind spinning. Does a side gig go if they are popular as a dentist? Because certainly wouldn't that be taking them away from the things that their customers want? Ultimately, as a business owner, you want to be servicing your customers first.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, as long as you can get your customer, I mean, it depends on, again, what you want to do. I mean, I always had side gigs. So for my story was like, when I was 42, I was working 2 days a week because I was taking the kids to the soccer. And that was the lovely thing about dental hygiene. You can do a part-time job, and we had 3 kids. My husband was traveling all over. So then when husband decided to quit his corporate job at the age of 42, and I thought we'd be millionaires right away. And it turned out it's not that easy. And I got, okay, so now I got to make more money. And I started a side gig, but it was within dentistry. And so 2 days a week, the thing is about dentistry, you're in the operatory. So it's not like you are not chained to your chair, but you are pretty much in the office. If you're not there, you're not making any money. So I ended up with some side gigs that led me to what I'm doing right now, which is lovely. And I still practiced for 46 years, and I loved it. I love clinical hygiene, but I was doing 5 hours a week when I finished. But again, that's balance. That's what I wanted to do. And some side gigs pay more than being in the operatory. So that works out as well also. So it just depends on who you are, what you want to do. And I think dentistry as a profession, as a career, there's so many opportunities within the clinical setting and outside the clinical setting. Just because, you go to dental school doesn't mean you're suited to it either, because you get into dental school for your grades. If you're smart, pass the DTA. Is it the DTA? I can't remember now what the dental entrance exam or whatever. And so many young dentists get out, and when they finally realize what it's all about, they're like, what was I thinking? Well, they were thinking, that it would be a nice career for them and they would like it, but they probably didn't realize what it takes day to day working in this little space, in the little operatory, and having to run and manage people all day long. Some of those things, just really aren't suited to everybody. And so I think being open to like a side gig that might be within the profession, so you're not like using your whole education, throwing it out the door. Just maybe be open to what's possible, I think that's what we've built with Dental Entrepreneurial Women. It's not like you just had to be a dentist. This is really all women in dentistry, all career paths. And I find the women in dentistry are so smart. You can't get through dental school or dental hygiene, or even be a great assistant or an office manager if you're not smart and you can't handle a lot of plate spinning or executing what needs to be done. So, again, they might have a different avenue for their life. Go for it, because you're still serving the profession, but you're just not maybe picking up a scaler or a drill. There's just a lot of opportunity.
It's interesting. I interviewed someone recently from outside of dentistry for my podcast, and she was telling me that now the people in their 20s, and they've already got side gigs going on the internet. So that model of go to school, go to university and become a dentist, that's already been thrown out down here. And I think it may be the same in the United States. Down here, dentistry is a second science degree. So they can do just a basic science degree. They can do dental hygiene, and then that's their stepping stone into dentistry. So that's an issue in dentistry itself, that the hygienists that they're employing, they actually want to be dentists. So we're losing... People aren't becoming hygienists for life. They're becoming hygienists as a stepping stone. But then at the end, as you just raised, people will say, well, I've got this dental degree. I don't think I want to do that. So at 30 and even in their late 30s, they're saying, I'm going to go back and do another career. Whereas I went to dental school because I wasn't, like Ed Zuckerberg, I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor. So I ended up in dentistry. So that was just how it was. I learned to love dentistry as something that I did. And then I learned to love it in terms of wanting to be a business person. I actually got into medical school after 2 years of dentistry, but I said, look, I don't think I can sign up for more education. I just want to get out. All my friends from school, they were already tradies. They were already making money. I was the starving.
Right.
So it's interesting, but you said about side hustles. A friend of my sister's, she's a newsreader. She invented I don't know what it's called, but you'll know it. It's that for pregnant women, it's that device that allows them to connect their genes as their genes don't fit anymore as the baby bump grows. She invented that little thing, the buttons into the two buttonholes. And she, like who thinks of that sort of, that's like left field. That's like way left field.
Yeah, I love it. That's not a dentistry, but
doing those things. And for dentists, everybody loves the story of Queen, Brian Taylor. Is it Brian Taylor, the drummer? He was at dental school. He was at dental school. Freddie used to say, if it wasn't for me, you'd be a dentist.
wow. And he's like, thank God. Oh
Yeah,
my
thank
God.
God.
But because again, like you say, when you start asking people, like what got you into dentistry, very, very few say, oh, I just love working in little tight spaces. I'm very creative and I'm very good at art and or an engineer or whatever, because you really have to have all those skills to be really good. I mean, you have to. And so you get out of dental school and you're like, what the heck? I don't even know what I just did the last 4 years. It was a big struggle. And now I got to do this for the rest of my life. Yeah. But look at you though, David, you were speaking, your coachings. Those are side gigs. Those are side gigs. And you still, while you were practicing dentistry, I think that gives a nice, broad, fulfilling career. I think I know that if I would have worked 4 or 5 days a week as a dental hygienist, I'm not sure I would have said after 46 years, oh my God, that was just unbelievable. I probably wouldn't even be able to walk or I mean, it's taxing. So, I mean, I just feel like dentistry is such a great career, but I think there's so many opportunities to be able to round it out to be something that you love and you can be successful and you don't have to be burnt out. There's just a lot of help out there and support for how you want to model your own life. And dentistry could be a big part of it because, the good stuff is, why do you love dentistry? Well, giving people a smile, giving them their health. I mean, those are all things that are just, over the top. It's so rewarding, but it takes its toll if you're not good at it. I mean, that's the thing. It could be a struggle if you're not, not everybody's really good at the artistic nature that it takes to be a dentist. I mean, now I'm thinking about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, just think about that. Think about that if you have no artistic talent and you're not really good at picking colors, well, just think of all the things that it takes to be a really excellent dentist. Some of that needs to be innate. And if it's not, it's going to be a struggle throughout your life. So it's better to realize that early on. And I don't know. I'm out of a rabbit hole now. I'm not going down a rabbit hole right now, but I'm like, oh my God, I never thought about it like that.
But you're absolutely right, Anne. And I had this discussion with David Maddow a long time ago about, and it was almost pre-social media. It was definitely pre-social media, but we were talking about dental chat forums. And I said they can be quite scary because you find that there's dentists on there who don't want to be dentists. And David said to me, David, it's probably more than half the profession. They end up with a student debt, a practice debt, and then a spouse debt, and they're just working for the man, working for retirement to get out of there. And I said, imagine being a patient of somebody who's got that in their back of their brain. That they wouldn't be doing it, as you said, to be artistic and to help have an experience. And he said more than half the dental profession. Let's bring this back. I'm making this up as I'm talking. Is that something that's just more characteristic of male dentists? Do female dentists have that, I'm stuck in dentistry? Or as you said, they have the opportunity, because there's plate spinners, they're doing multiple things anyway, they have the opportunity of thinking outside the box and doing something else. You've mentioned some creative things that
I mean, think about the, like, women First of all, their hands are smaller. That's another thing. And then, I mean, they love beauty. There's some innate things. They love nurturing. They're intuitive. There's a lot of characteristics that are just innate to women. Like they say, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I think there's a lot of traits that women have that really lend themselves to dentistry. I really do. Just even being able to be empathetic to the patient in the chair. People are afraid when they come in. I mean, there's just so many layers there that I think lend themselves to female. And I think that female dentists seem to be very happy and content in their career choice. And also they don't take it like, I don't know, like I don't know. They're everyone's, well, let's just see. I don't know. I know a lot of women that are really driven to be excellent, to make huge money, to have big careers. But when you look at who's owning the DSOs, who's in the corporate areas, especially if they're owned by dentists, very few female-owned DSOs are out there. They don't have that kind of a drive. They like the idea of practicing dentistry and the beauty part of it, the caring part of it, all of that stuff, all those traits, again, I think are not that men don't have them, but they lean toward the feminine side and the feminine leadership.
Interesting. Earlier on, you were talking about successful women dentists, and a dentist who you said was making as much money working 4 days a month as she was working 4 days a week. And I've come across a dentist down here who owns 2 offices, and I think she works 1 day a month.
There you go.
Dentist, that's it. And when you call the office, she's never there. In fact, another one's just come to mind in another state. And so they've built a business that runs without them. And I think as a D-type person on the disc profile, I found that difficult to not be thinking what's going on in my office while I'm working with a patient, and also thinking I'm associate clinicians giving each patient a thorough diagnosis, or are they presenting because they don't want to be rejected for offering something that they think somebody's not going to want because they're prejudging? And so that was a really hard thing to come to grips with, that in a dental practice, an average dentist can treatment plan a splint for a patient, but a good dentist will treatment plan for an appliance that helps with snoring, helps with sleep apnea, all that, which is far more expensive and far better for the patient, rather than just identifying, like, you're grinding your teeth, here's a splint, I've got a splint. And it's also better for the practice if the patient gets results and if the patient has a life-changing experience as a result of that. So that's not just a male thing. I think that's finding that mindset in dentists as entrepreneurs. That's more an entrepreneur thing than a gender.
Well, that's running a business. That's so tough. I mean, like when you think about it, the dentists that are coming out of dental school with all the debt, they probably feel fairly broke. And I think that's the whole mindset around money too, like with your treatment planning and making sure that you don't put money, the money's not at the top of your mind when you're presenting a treatment plan. What's best for the patient, right? So all of those things, I mean, they need those young people, and just in general, dentists need help with that. It's, charging what they're worth, right? I mean, that's the other thing, is just, there's so many things there that they need help with. They need a coach, they need mindset. Gosh, you think about it. It's not easy. It's not easy to have the success and the peace of mind that when you lay your head on the pillow, that you've done a great job and that you can pay all your bills the next month. It's just different now, I think, sometimes than it was in the past, because of insurance and all the things that, how do you make money to keep the lights on? It's a real thing.
You mentioned that event where you said there was hardly any female speakers, and we have one down here. We have a digital dentistry event where I help. I write for the magazine that creates this event. And you're right, there's 1 or 2 female speakers only on digital dentistry, and it just looks like men in suits. But there are women in dentistry conferences. And I know, we were talking about that orthodontist from Canada, and I know another lady orthodontist from California. They both spoke at an event in Florida earlier this year.
Okay.
Women in dentistry event. So there is that happening. But is that also happening under the radar?
Well, I think you made a good point about digital dentistry. I mean, and the tech. I think tech is not as many women are in tech and speaking on that subject. So I guess we'll give them the credit for that. I mean, we got to give them a pass on the conference that had, 30 men and 2 women. We don't really, that's the other thing though, honestly, David, is like when I started Dental Entrepreneur Woman, our goal was to empower and inspire women, but we also want to show women why they want to be empowered. Okay, so you have to work at those things and you have to want those things. And sometimes that's not their goal. And so, there's something for everybody, but you can't make somebody want to exceed in a way that doesn't really float their boat, so to speak. I mean, you have to want it. And that's sometimes it's hard, and you can't judge just because somebody's got a very successful practice from a monetary standpoint versus someone is doing it on their own terms and having a good business. It may not be making the most money or have the biggest patient, load there, but still it brings them happiness and fulfillment. And that's different for everybody. And we have to show them that that's okay. And then you've got to go back to a little bit of really looking at yourself. What do you really want out of life? What do you want out of your career? You can have it. You just have to have a plan and have somebody help you with it.
Yeah, I don't think it's interesting that I'm talking to you about dentistry for women, but what you're actually mentioning and what we're discussing is dentistry for either gender. And that is, like what you just said then, it's a phrase so I've heard this from outside of dentistry, put a ladder in front of a man and he's just going to want to climb it. And there are women like that as well. The richest person in Australia is a woman. She inherited her father's mining business, but she's grown it, but now but she's frowned upon because she's wealthy. Down here, that's what we do. We pick on our successful people. We don't admire them. It's called tall poppy syndrome, and it's really bad. But I think she highlights herself more because she is a successful woman as opposed to being a successful person. But you're right. My son works in IT, and it's predominantly. I was thinking while you're talking, if you ask somebody to describe a geek, they would describe a male as a geek, a computer guy, and cyber criminals. They're always men wearing hoodies. It's like this image. You brought up a really good point, and it's not just for women and for men, but you said that women are more happy to reach a level and not try to get better, even though or achieve more, even though more is possible. And sometimes that more is possible is something that's personal rather than gender specific, because that's what I did in my business. How can we make Mrs. Smith's visit today better than her visit last time? How can we make her next visit better than it was today? Everything was always about how can we be better? And of course, the benefit of being better is that it makes our business better. It makes our business more successful. And so accepting...
But I mean, okay, so back up a second. I do think though that women they achieve and they want to do great things, but everyone's success looks different, right? So like,
yes, true.
That their success, what does success look like to you? Well, mostly it looks like, women will probably put in a little bit of like their family, the kids are doing well, and my practice is doing well. I mean, what order is everything in? So, I mean, I'm making a general assumption. There's a lot of women I know that are going to the top and don't bet against them. And I think that's wonderful, but that's what they want. And I think that's my goal, is to have the women find out what they're good at. I believe in like knowing what your strengths are, leaning into those, and then go for it and do the best you can. I mean, the 4 agreements, always, your word's impeccable, take nothing personally, make no assumptions, and always do your best. And I think that is something that if you live by, male or female, you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of it. And my goal is, when you're in dentistry, you're going to look back on your career and say, that was a great ride. I had a great career, and, mic drop. That's what's important, I think. And everybody, owning 30 practices and doing all that sort of stuff, that's great for some people, but that's not the end game for everybody. And I think you should find what you really want and then go for that, because it's possible. But what do you want?
I think tying it back to dentistry and not being gender specific is that anything's possible in dentistry, and anybody can set a level of success. You mentioned before about people are either inherently business-minded or not. It's funny, I often use the phrase, no baby has ever been born speaking. No baby has ever been born with a dental handpiece in its hand. And as I say in my wife's side of dentistry, no baby's ever born with a phone in its hand. All right. So these are things that we learn. And so we can learn. It's My Fair Lady. It's Pygmalion. We can learn to speak better. We can learn how to say things better. And we can learn how to say things for a purpose. And sure, you can be manipulative like Jordan Belfort was, but ultimately, it's like if we go to a restaurant, we see a movie that we think everybody else should go to or see, we recommend it. And so if we believe in our product, our dentistry, then we should be helping our patients to have that dentistry that they need, that it's better for them than just prejudging them or thinking they won't want it and they'll think I'm trying to sell them something. We don't even believe in what we're doing there.
Yes. Yeah. That's the important. I mean, it goes back to the whole mindset thing. You've got to have the confidence, and that comes with practice and just with experience. You can't let it get you down. You can't compare yourself to other people. You have to figure out your lane and then grow in that. There's so many opportunities to be able to grow and learn clinically, and the business side. You have to reach out and take that, and lifelong learners. And I do think that dentists, they wouldn't be able to get through the rigors of school if they weren't learners. You really have to be a lifetime learner in dentistry, because it changes all the time. And just like your son in tech, I mean, dentistry right now, the tech is incredible, but it's robotic now. I mean, like they're doing implants with robots. I mean, there's just so many things to learn, but you've got to, it depends on what you want to do within your practice. So
I'm seeing that now in dentistry. And I quit clinical 8 years ago because of the arthritis in my hands. I didn't even have a scanner back then. Now now people aren't doing plaster anymore.
Yeah.
It's so different. And I'm seeing images now of robots doing restorative as well as placing implants. And of course, if they can do that in other parts of the body, of course, it's got to come to dentistry.
Oh, I know. It's so interesting and so cool. I don't know. I think dentistry is just a great profession for women and men. They come together and work together. They should respect each other. I mean, I've even heard it's not that long ago that, like you were saying, the graduating dentists, it was the majority were, 80% men and 20% women. It's not that long ago. So, but the fact that it's 60% now, that is probably not going to change. That's probably going to continue to grow, I would think, because again, it lends itself to being a great career for a woman. I mean, it's something to look at.
Exactly. So many options. And it's I'm mindful of the time. It must be coming close to time for you to retire for the evening.
Oh, it probably is. Is it my bedtime? Oh my gosh, you're just getting ready to go on your walk. And there's so much that we could talk about, though. I just would wish we had more time tonight, but I'm going to probably have to have another reschedule with you. You're going to have to come on my podcast. I've got dental entrepreneur, the future of dentistry. You could come on that. And then, and I only have women on the Dental Entrepreneur Woman podcast. I'm pretty particular, but you're a dude, by the way. So all the guys want to be in their community. And I say, you guys have to, it's just for women. And, but a man that supports women in dentistry is a dude. And that's capital D, lowercase e, capital W, lowercase d. So your number is, I just gave out 160 today. I have 160 dudes. And if you will honor me, David, you would be 161 dudes. And you certainly are a man that supports women in dentistry. And I honor you for that.
Thank you for that honor. I accept with open arms that I'm now number 161. And as a coach, I find that I do work better with female dentists than I do with male dentists.
Why is that? Are we just easier to work with? Is that what it is? Is it your charm? What is it?
I think that I just help them think better about business than the female coaches out there for some reason. Maybe they put gender aside. They say, all right, he's he's been successful. Whereas two
Don't
men
get in
talking,
trouble here. Don't get in trouble now.
two men talking, it's often a challenge. You often go, why am I in this discussion? It's like, I'm better than, my car's bigger than your car. My car's faster.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, sometimes male dentists feel threatened by my success as a dentist, whereas I think female dentists say, all right, what can he offer me? And so I help them to think smarter other than how they've thought before. Because a lot of my ideas are from outside of dentistry that I brought to dentistry that helped my practice. But I don't teach them theory. I teach them stuff that I did that worked for me. And I think that's, nobody likes to be, I think men don't like to think that they're taking somebody else's idea.
Well, think about it. Think about it, though. Again, another trait for women are they realize they need help. I mean, very few. I think there's the majority of women that are being coached or that have a therapist or have, a friend or reach out to a friend. I mean, men really keep it all to themselves. And I think women are way more interested in like getting the help and receiving the help and the advice. And they, call a friend. I mean, how many guys call up their guy friend and say, hey, I had this thing going on and I don't know what to do. What do you think? No, they don't do that. So women, again, this lends itself to having a very fulfilling career because we need some help. And that's probably why they take your advice and your coaching because they just receive it better. I mean, that I think that's, I mean, again, I'm making all this up with this is just my experience.
Well,
being married, I'll be married 50 years. My husband, God bless him, he would probably never ask for help. So yeah, I mean, I'm always calling somebody and asking them for help. So, I don't know if that's just he and I, but it lends itself to what you just said about women are more receptive to your coaching. And I think that we are in general more receptive to that.
And what's the best way for anybody watching or listening to this podcast to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way would be, LinkedIn. I'm in LinkedIn, Anne Linish or Anne Duffy. You can get me, and then do DEW. It's DEW.life. That's our website for Dental Entrepreneur Woman, and then dentalentrepreneur.com. You can reach us both at dentalentrepreneur.media.com. But yeah, I'm everywhere. You can get me on Instagram and you can get me on Facebook and reach out on Messenger. All right. Yeah. I got everything on our website that you can get in touch with me. And I'd love to hear from you if anybody's listening. And we have a retreat coming up in November in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we'll have 250 amazing influencers, all females in the room in Charlotte, which is going to be lovely. It's our 8th annual retreat. And so we're going to have some great speakers, a lot of them that you'll know, David, over the years. We just gather and we believe it's principle number 4, the answers in the ladies' room. So I hope they will join us.
And great chatting with you. And I'm sorry it's been so long since we've spoken face to face. That's COVID that did that, but always a pleasure. And Duffy, thanks for being a guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast today.
Thank you, David. I love seeing you. It was wonderful to chat tonight. So thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure, Anne. Thank you.
Gosh.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.